Danielle Colby from American Pickers is behind bars tonight after being convicted in connection with Frank Fritz's death.
The courtroom was silent. No flashing lights, no camera angles, no edits. Just Danielle Colby had lowered, hands trembling, eyes hollow. The same face that once lit up millions of screens on American Pickers now looked like a stranger in shackles. All the quirky charm, the confident swagger, the fire behind the tattoos, gone. Gone was the rebel queen of roadside treasures. Gone was the woman who turned a desk job into a cultural phenomenon. In her place stood someone confronting the ugliest truth of all, that fame once unleashed doesn't just illuminate, it consumes. And when it burns, it takes everything with it. But how did this woman, once celebrated for breaking molds, find herself facing 18 years in federal prison? How did a fan favorite become the centerpiece of a national scandal that would shake not just her career, but an entire industry? What happened behind the scenes was darker than anyone ever imagined, and it all started in a sleepy Midwestern town. Long before the headlines and the handcuffs, Danielle Colby was a misfit in the Midwest. Davenport, Iowa wasn't exactly known for burlesque dancers or artistic rebellion, but that's where she was born, and it didn't take long before she realized she didn't belong. School bored her. Rules annoyed her. The stage, that's where she came alive. She joined underground art scenes, built a name as a burlesque performer, and turned self-expression into an act of war against small-town conformity. Her body was her canvas, and every tattoo was a battle scar. She didn't ask for attention. It just followed her. In a sea of sameness, Danielle was wildfire. Then fate knocked. In 2004, she reconnected with Mike Wolf, an old acquaintance with a dream. At the time, he ran a small antiques business. He brought her in as an office manager. Nothing fancy, just logistics, emails, spreadsheets. But when American Pickers hit the air in 2010, everything changed overnight. Mike and Frank were faces of the show, two guys digging through barns for rusty gold. Danielle was the voice in the background, the one lining up the stops. But it didn't stay that way. Her quick-wit, raw energy and unconventional vibe turned heads. In a world of dusty barns and forgotten treasures, she was a treasure. Soon her role grew. No longer just a voice on the phone, Danielle became the soul of the show. She wasn't just supporting the guys. She was analyzing finds, negotiating prices, running the operation. If Mike was the muscle and Frank the charm, Danielle was the brain, the weird, wild, irresistible brain. But success is a tricky thing, especially when it's built on being different. The more she rose, the more the spotlight demanded from her. And with every new season, every Instagram post, every public appearance, the image got harder to maintain. Being Danielle Colby wasn't just a job anymore. It was a role she couldn't escape. Behind the rustic charm of American Pickers, a slow-burning conflict was taking shape. On screen, it was all smiles, laughs, and rare antiques. Off screen, it was turf wars, ego clashes, and cold calculations. At the center of it all, Mike Wolf, Frank Fritz, and Danielle Colby, a triangle that started tight and ended in total collapse. Mike, the visionary. Frank, the heart. Danielle, the balance. But as the show exploded in popularity, so did the pressure. Danielle's presence began to grow, and fans noticed. So did the producers. And so did Frank. What was once a harmonious trio turned into quiet rivalry and territorial lines. The bond was cracking. According to insiders, Mike began leaning more on Danielle, professionally and personally. She was sharp, organized, and understood the TV machine. Frank, however, wasn't sold. He felt sidelined, like the show was evolving without him. And when leaked emails showed Danielle forwarding private details directly to Mike, suspicion started to snowball. The lines were drawn. Danielle, once the neutral force, became the gravitational center. Frank felt betrayed. Mike grew colder. And American Pickers was no longer a roadshow. It was a slow-moving crash with a fan base watching in blissful ignorance. But Frank wasn't done speaking. He had one more story left to tell. On September 30th, 2024, the world woke up to devastating news. Frank Fritz was dead. The official report claimed complications from a stroke. But it wasn't just grief that spread, it was suspicion. Something felt off. Too quiet, too clean. And then came the diary. Hidden in an old shed in Davenport, Frank's private notebook painted a disturbing picture. Pages filled with paranoia, mistrust, and chilling references to Danielle. "Someone's been messing with my meds," he wrote. "Danielle says she's checking the dosage, but I don't believe her anymore." What was once friendship was now fear. The FBI got involved. Anonymous tips, financial oddities, and treatment inconsistencies triggered a full-blown investigation. And the clues began to pile up. A black SUV spotted outside Frank's house tonight. He collapsed. Cell tower data confirming Danielle's presence. And then, text messages no one was supposed to see. "Windows are closed. He's alone. No one's checking till morning," she allegedly wrote to Mike. "It's taken care of," he replied. Those words ignited a media firestorm. Danielle was no longer just a controversial figure. In the weeks following Frank's death, the investigation zeroed in on the one thing that always tells the truth: money. Bank records showed a suspicious transfer of $175,000 to Danielle Kai's account just 2 days after Frank passed. The sender? A shell company linked to Mike Wolf, hidden offshore under name Vintage Solutions, LLC. At first, Danielle denied everything. Business consulting, she claimed, but investigators weren't buying it. The timing, the amount, the paper trail. It didn't lie. Financial audits revealed Danielle's spending had skyrocketed. Luxury cars, personal investments, and a beachfront property in Puerto Rico, all acquired within months of Frank's health decline. Public trust crumbled fast. A CBS News poll showed 63% of Americans believed Danielle was directly involved in Frank's death. Social media exploded with hashtags like #SheKnew and #JusticeForFrank. Danielle went silent. No interviews, no statements. Her fans, once loyal and loud, were now eerily divided. The courtroom was next, and as Danielle entered under heavy scrutiny, America held its breath. Would she finally speak up, or would the secrets go down with her? The trial was about to begin, and it was unlike anything reality television had ever seen. January 17th, 2025. The federal courthouse in Des Moines was packed. Reporters from CNN, Variety, and TMZ jostled for space alongside influencers live streaming outside. Inside, Danielle sat still, no longer a star, just a defendant. The charges: complicity, fraud, negligence, and maybe something far worse. Text messages between Danielle and Mike Wolf were the prosecution's dagger. One read, "Do we call a doctor now or leave it to fate?" Mike's reply, "Too late." The courtroom gasped. This wasn't just drama. It was damning. Then came the witness testimonies. Production assistants, ex-friends, even former show editors. Each painted a picture of Danielle not as a victim, but as a mastermind. Calm, calculating, always 10 steps ahead. One recalled her tearing pages from Frank's notebook while muttering, "Don't let those two old men ruin the scene." Her defense: that she was manipulated, that she was scared, that she didn't mean for any of it to happen. But the jury wasn't convinced, and neither was the public. Behind the quirky burlesque persona was now a shadow, something colder, something calculated. Danielle had always known how to control a scene, but in that courtroom, she was no longer directing anything. She was just watching it all fall apart. Stripped of her titles, her business, and her freedom, Danielle Colby became inmate DC-044 at Alderson Federal Prison. The tattoos, once a symbol of freedom and rebellion, were now reminders of a life gone wrong. She wasn't the muse of American pickers anymore. She was just another woman in a gray uniform, blending into concrete walls and fluorescent lights. Danielle kept a low profile inside. No drama, no attitude, just quiet. She avoided prison cliques, skipped community events, and barely spoke at meals. But one place she frequented religiously, the library. Surrounded by silence, she buried herself in books on psychology, ethics, and power. Trying to understand how everything unraveled, she began writing, journaling, reflecting. Letters to her daughter leaked online, revealed a version of Danielle that no one had seen before, vulnerable, remorseful, and confused. "I used to think I was strong because I was authentic," she wrote. But now I realize that authenticity without responsibility is just chaos dressed in self-expression. Her memoir behind the name Colby is already in production. She pledged to donate all proceeds to the Frank Fritz Legacy Foundation. But even that move sparked outrage. Was it a genuine attempt at redemption or another calculated PR strategy from someone who knew exactly how to control a narrative? The Danielle Colby trial didn't just collapse her life. It shook an entire entertainment empire. In the weeks after her conviction, History Channel dropped all content featuring her. Streaming services like Netflix pulled over 25 unscripted shows. YouTube disabled comments on American Pickers clips and altered their discovery algorithm. And then the floodgates opened. Whistleblowers from Storage Wars, Gold Rush, and Deadliest Catch came forward, revealing pre-scripted scenes, staged negotiations, and planted artifacts. The FCC launched a formal investigation. Within months, the U.S. government proposed a real act to regulate authenticity in reality programming. Even universities got involved. Stanford, Columbia, and UCLA added the Danielle Colby case to their journalism and media ethics curriculum. Cultural experts began to refer to it as the Watergate of reality TV. For the first time, the public realized that their favorite authentic shows have been carefully engineered performances all along. But perhaps the most shocking blow came from the very fans who once idolized these stars. Antique sales dropped 35%. Collectors began questioning not just the objects, but the stories behind them. The illusion had shattered. And it all started with a single woman who let the spotlight shine too long. Danielle Colby was once the embodiment of everything fans loved about American Pickers: rebellious, raw, and real. But in the end, it wasn't the antiques, the charisma, or even the fame that defined her legacy. It was the silence, the moments she could have spoken up but didn't, the truth she buried beneath clever edits and practiced smiles. Her fall wasn't just personal, it was cultural. She represented a generation of viewers who clung to the idea that reality TV was, well, reality. But as the courtroom drama unfolded, it became clear what we saw was never real. Not the laughter, not the loyalty, not even the conflict. Everything was a story. And Danielle, she knew how to tell it best. Now she's no longer a curator of vintage finds, but a case study in media ethics. Her face, once plastered on merchandise and tour buses, is a warning sign. Professors teach her case in lectures. Lawmakers cite her in debates. And fans, they rewatch old episodes with a different lens, searching for the moment where it all started to unravel. In her final letter from prison, Danielle wrote, "I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope one day the world will understand that silence doesn't always mean consent. Sometimes it's fear, sometimes it's survival, and maybe that's the harshest truth of all, that behind the fame, behind the rebellion, was just a woman afraid to stop the inevitable." The story of Danielle Colby isn't just her own, it's ours. It's about what we believe, what we consume, and what we ignore until it's too late. Because in the end, the most dangerous lies aren't told in scripts. They're the ones we pretend not to see. The ones that wear authenticity like a costume. The ones that feel just real enough. And as the dust settles, the only thing left is a question we can't ignore.